Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Center of Excellence in Bangkok. We're here at the IWIS International Training Center. My name is Matt MacMurdo, and I'm here with my colleague, Chrisha Gossard, who is going to gracefully and beautifully demonstrate for us today. This ISU e-learning seminar is on figures, and we're going to take a look back at them to help us inform some of our skating today. So welcome to our skaters and coaches that are joining us across Southeast Asia, from Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Singapore. We're going to do a short introduction and a little brief history, and then we'll get started. Okay. Okay, so just a little short introduction before we get started so we know where we're going to jump off from. We'll just get that slide up there for you. Okay, so it's just a short introduction. Figure skating is an exhilarating and powerfully moving sport that includes jumps, spins, lifts, footwork, and artistry. But while the sport that we know today encompasses these thrilling elements and performances, the basis for the sports come from figures or patterns made on the ice from which the sport derives its name. Until recently, figures were an integral part of the sport and can still provide benefits to skaters today. In this webinar, we will delve into basic figures and turns that can be used to attain edge control, good posture, body alignment, and core strength while improving basic skating skills. Although figures are not practiced to the same extent today, the same principles can be adapted to more dynamic exercises for use in everyday training. We're really glad that you can join us as we look back to figures to inform and improve our skating skills for the future. So now a very, very brief history on figures. I know this isn't extensive, but just so you have an idea of where we're coming from here. Figures, also known as compulsory figures or school figures, were patterns made on the ice from which figure skating derives its name. Figures were a major component of figure skating, both in the learning of skating and competitions, comprising up to 60% of the total score for 50 years up until 1947. Figures continued to be of an importance, but to a lesser degree, especially with the introduction of the original program, now known as the short program in 1973. Figures were last included in competition in the 1989 season, but continued to be taught and used as a tool for teaching basic skating skills. Doing figures in the past was a very precise exercise with emphasis on control and exact tracings of patterns on the ice. Judging and evaluating of figures for competitions and tests was an examination of how well this was done, with judges and evaluators scrutinizing the figures for any errors. However, for this webinar, we will not be analyzing the tracings with a microscope, but rather adapting figures to today's skating environment and taking some principles from figures and applying them to inform and improve our skating skills. This will be especially relevant to teaching skating in developing countries where we are today, where there's a lack of history doing figures and where ice time and space are at a premium. Adapting figure exercises, but keeping the principles is necessary. All right. So now we're going to go on to how we make the circles. All right. So the first method that we have for drawing the circle is 3 body lengths of the skater. So if they are smaller in stature, then you're going to make the circle smaller. That's approximate. So you can always make this circles to the size that you need. Okay. So here, if you can see, you're just going to pan to the circles. We've drawn out our circles today. All right, so you can see the 3 circles there. We're going to be doing a serpentine later. We're going to start with the figure 8 pattern. And then if you can just pan to the left there, you can see that we've drawn the dynamic patterns on the blue line. So there's going to be a moving pattern there. So you can see that. Okay. All right, so we just have some major things that we want to go over today. We want to talk about parts of the circle. So we have the center. Chrisha, you can stand on the center. Yeah, we have the long axis, which goes down the long length of the circles. So that's through the center, the top of the circles. And you can see that you can change the long axis to go down the length of the ice as well. Okay, we have the short axis, which goes across the centers instead of through the centers, and also across the middle of the circle. Okay, we have the quarter marks, which is at the quarter of the circle. So you can see there's the half at the top, and then you have down at the other side, you have the 3/4 mark. Chrisha is going to move to that on the next one. And then another thing we'll be talking about when we get to turns is the rotation and the check of the body. So we'll go over that a little bit later. There are some key principles that we want to remember when we are talking about figures that we're going to take throughout all of these exercises as we do them today. And that is control, balance, body alignment, core stability, quality of edge, and run of the edge. So you hear us talk about that a lot today as we go through these exercises. All right, so why don't we get started then? If you have we have our circles set up, we have our quarter marks, we have our half marks, we have our centers all ready to go. So Chrisha, we're just going to go over some of the body alignment before we start. Okay, so Chrisha is on the center. We're going to be doing a forward figure 8 pattern, and it's called a figure 8 pattern because, well, it's in the shape of an 8. So that was a pretty obvious one, but you've got it there. So Chrisha is going to be in a T position. Now for the outside edge, the top of the T or the back foot, the toe is going to be facing away from the circle you're going to be skating into. When we do the inside edge, the toe will be facing into the circle. So she's got her feet underneath her. Now for her control and balance, everything is going to be balanced above the skating foot as she goes around the circle. Her hips are on top of her feet, shoulders on top of her hips. We are going to place the hands on the circle. Yes. So for the forward outside, we're going to start with the skating side. We're going to have that arm in front. And then her shoulders are also on the circle. And her head is just naturally placed. It's not strenuous at all, just nice and relaxed there on top. Okay, so Chrisha is just going to show us the first circle so we can see what it looks like as she goes around. In figures, it's a little bit more precise. But today we're just going to worry about the body alignment and the body control as she goes around the circle. We're not going to get into the minute tracing going around. Okay, so Chrisha is going to show us her best circle that she can do. We're just going to do one circle so you can see. All right, so she's going to push onto the circle onto the right foot. You see a free foot comes behind at the quarter mark. Free foot comes in front at the half, and then the arms change at the quarter mark to come back to the center. Free foot comes behind, free foot goes in front, the arms change at the 3/4 mark, and then she comes back to the center, okay? So you can see some things that we were talking about there on the circle with Chrisha. She had great posture. She was controlled above her skating foot the entire time, yes? And also, when she was going around the circle, you notice that there wasn't any friction on the edge. She had that run of edge that we were talking about earlier. So not only do you want the control of the edge going around, you want the ease of going around the ice on the edge. So Chrisha really demonstrated that very well. Okay. All right. So let's do one more outside so we can see that one more time, and then we'll go on to the inside edge. Okay. All right. So we're just going to work out a little camera issue here, and then we'll get back to it. Okay, so the other thing that we were talking about as we were going around the circle was core stability. Okay, so keeping your core strong as you're going around the circle. Okay, so that's really important that we keep that core tight, and we make sure that our hips and everything stay stable over our skating foot as we go around. Okay. All right. Great. Okay, here we go. We're going to do one more figure 8 pattern on the outside edge. Okay. So this is really important for the quality of edges that you want in your basic skating skills, just practicing the control on these edges. So foot comes behind, foot goes in front, arms change at the 3/4. Push from the center. Now it's not very fast going around this. You want to slow down, foot in front, and then arms change at the 3/4 and come back to the center. And that's great. Thank you. All right. So that's the basic figure 8 pattern. Now, Chrisha made it look really easy, but as you know, for some little kids, this would be quite difficult. So it's something that's going to take some practice and practice of the control and body alignment and that sort of thing. The principles that we want to take from figures and use in our skating skills every day. Okay. So now we're going to do the inside edge. Okay. So when she's in the T position, her back foot toe is going to face into the circle that she's going to go around first. Okay. Now you're going to have the Christian's going to put the same arm in front. You can also go opposite hand in front. You can practice both if you like, okay? Because there's different ways. Let's do opposite first, okay? So the same thing here. She's going to push to the quarter. Foot comes behind. Free foot goes in front at the top of the circle. And then she's going to switch her arms at the 3/4. So opposite hand is in front. Free foot comes behind at the quarter. Free foot in front at the half. Switch the arms at the 3/4. And there we go. And that's your forward inside figure 8. Okay, so now we were talking earlier about skating in developing countries or starting a new program in a new rink somewhere perhaps around the world where you might not have the space or you might not have the time to do these large circles that we've been showing you now. So we're going to show you some dynamic exercises which you've probably seen before, but it's good that we take the principles that we were doing on the circle and we transfer them to these dynamic exercises, okay? So we've set up our pattern on the blue line. Again, the same thing, we have centers going all the way down. These circles are a little bit smaller so you can fit them in. And you can also do the pattern going on the lengthways of the ice, but we've done it this way for today, okay? So again, foot comes behind and in front. Foot comes behind and then in front. Just nice and slow as she goes. So the foot goes behind and in front. Behind and in front. Behind and in front, okay? Great. Okay, Chrisha, why don't you do one more of those coming back and then we'll do the inside. Okay. So same thing, yeah, same, their hand in front. Okay, so foot behind and in front. We switch the arms with the foot this time. So switch the arm and the free foot at the same time, okay? Okay. Circles are smaller, so the same timing is a little bit faster as you go down the line, okay? Yeah, the circles are a little bit smaller. For a skater, if someone is just learning how to skate, then this would probably be a really good size for them to learn. The circles can get bigger as the skater gets more confident and better at their edges, okay? So inside, we're gonna start with the opposite hand in front. Same thing, foot comes behind, switch the hands and the foot. Foot behind, switch the arms and the foot. Always coming back to the center and controlling. Oh, Chrisha switched her arms there on us. Foot behind and in front, and foot behind and in front. Great. Okay, one more time so we can see that beautiful skating. All right, so here she goes. Opposite, if you want to do same, you can, that's fine. Let's try same then, because you might have different inside edges that we're doing. Okay. Okay, so she's showing us the foot behind, controlled and in front. Yes. We're noticing that her balance is really good. She's got her core strong and she's going down these edges. Great. Okay, so that is the dynamic version of the outside and inside edges that we were doing on the circle, and we just transferred them to a moving exercise, which may be actually better for places where you don't have the space and the time to do it, okay? So that's your basic figure 8, all right? So now we're gonna go back to our figure 8 pattern, okay? And now we're gonna talk about, we're gonna do 3 turns, 3 turns. Okay, so earlier we talked about the rotate and check. So I just want Chrisha to demonstrate if you can see the patterns on there, you can see the 3 turns at the top of the circle. And then you do a backward 3 turn coming down on the other circle. Okay, so we have forward outside and then backward inside. Okay, so I just want Chrisha to demonstrate what we're talking about with the rotate and check. And you're gonna have this going through the turns later on too. So there we go. All right, so Chrisha's gonna demonstrate just a forward outside 3 turn for us. So same thing applies here with the T position, the body alignment over the skating foot. And we're going to push, foot comes behind. She's gonna rotate into the circle and then check after the 3 turn. Okay, notice that her shoulders and her hips check there. Back inside edge, foot comes in front, rotate and check. Okay, so the arms and the shoulders rotate into the circle and then they check opposite the hips as the turn happens. Okay. Yeah, we have a few ruts on here just because we had to draw our circles out today, but We'll get through it. Okay, so let's show the forward inside then. Actually, let's do one more of those so we can see. Now, one more forward outside to backward inside. Okay. So foot behind, she's going to rotate into the circle with her arms and shoulders and check against her hips as she does in the 3-turn. The foot comes behind the skating foot. Now you notice this push is a little different to the backward inside. The free foot comes in front. She does rotate the arms and shoulders and then checks after the 3-turn. Okay. All right. Let's show the other foot so we can just see one of those, and then we'll go over to the other foot. The other foot. Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to do forward outside and backward inside, and then we'll go over to the dynamic exercise. That's okay. You'll be great, Chrisha. Okay, so you have the rotate and check and the turn at the top of the circle. Now she's going to push to the backward inside with the C push. The foot comes in front. Rotate and check at the top of the circle. The foot stays in front as she comes in back to the center and then pushes out. Okay, so if you have the time and the space, please practice these exercises. Okay, if not, we have the dynamic exercise that we can do too. Okay.
We're gonna do the inside first.
I think on here, I think we didn't combine these ones. So why don't we just show this one and then we'll do the inside and everything else is combined. Okay. So this time, the 3 turns are going to happen on the quarter of the circle before you come back to the center. Okay. So she's going to do the forward outside 3-turn on the first lobe. You're going to turn at the quarter, come back to the center. Push back inside, turn at the quarter, come back to the center. Nice and controlled. You can see the same body positions as she does this dynamic exercise. Great. Good. Okay. And that's the dynamic exercise of the forward outside 3-turn to the backward inside 3-turn. Okay. Now, one thing that would be good to talk about now is maybe a little rest for Chrisha here is the use of the outside 3-turn is really important for when we're doing things like the Saukow preparation if you do it from a 3-turn. Okay. So remember we were talking about the check after the 3-turn. If Chrisha just wants to show us one 3-turn, she rotates into the circle and check. So if you were doing a Saukow, right, you would check after the 3-turn. So this is really important. That's okay. You can jump the other way too, I'm sure. Okay, so also if you're doing a forward outside 3-turn into a flip jump, that would be the same thing. After the 3-turn, you want to practice that check. Okay. Also 3-turns are used for transitions, right? And we also talk about sometimes 3-turns going into jumps, for example, like rolling 3-turns. So this is really important that we practice these turns and control both in and out of the turn. Okay. All right. So forward inside. Yes. To backward outside. Okay. Yeah. So we're just gonna show that pattern there. So it's very similar. It's very similar to the other pattern, of course. The 3 turns at the top of the circle. Okay. So let's start. Let's show this pattern on the figure. Okay. So she puts her foot behind. She rotates into the circle and checks at the top with the free foot behind. Comes back to the center. Great. She pushes to the outside edge. The foot goes in front. Rotate and check at that top of the circle. Okay. Notice the control of the positions, right? There's not a lot of moving around. Figure skating has changed a lot since we've done figures. Obviously, there's a lot more body movement, for example, if you're doing, let's say, a level 4 step sequence. But when we're just learning and we're just trying to teach the basics of skating, it's important that we learn the control first. So why don't we show that dynamic exercise with the inside 3-turn to the back outside. If you want to change the size of the patterns, you can go ahead. Yeah. Okay, so forward inside. So she turns over her skating side there. So notice a little difference. Actually, just there she turns over her shoulder. Yes. Forward inside over the free shoulder and then pushes back outside. So you can see the same turns just done on the quarter marks going down the circle. Okay. Great. Thanks, Chrisha. That was beautiful. All right. So the next pattern that we are going to go over to is going to be the double threes. Okay, so you can use double 3 turns, for example, in transitions. You can use a double 3 turns in a step sequence, for example, for rotation, if we're going for that level feature. So it's really important that we learn to control doing a 3 turn and then 1 after. So let's look at this figure. It's also on the figure 8. So this one's a little bit different. Chrisha, do you just want to stand on the third? So you're going to do your turns. You've got to divide the circle into thirds. Okay, so you can see where we are. If you can see the mark, and the 2 turns will be directly across from each other at the top of the circle. So if you imagine a Y on the circle or an upside down peace sign, yeah, then you can imagine where these marks will go on the circle. Okay. Krisha's working hard, everybody. This is not as easy as she makes it look. So really appreciate her demonstrating for us today these wonderful figures. Okay, so the same thing's going to apply for the 3 turn. Yeah, we're going to rotate and check and rotate and check. We're just going to do a forward outside and then a backward inside right on the circle. Okay, let's go. So she rotates and checks. The foot's going to come in front, and she's going to do the second turn on the 3rd mark there. So this is the first 3rd mark. And then foot in front and rotate and check. Okay. Notice the control. Even if she wobbles, she gets back to that stable position by using her core strength and stability. So that's great. Thank you for doing that. All right. So now let's do the forward inside double 3s, and then we'll go to the dynamic exercise. Okay. So this is the same pattern that we have. Okay, for this one, we're just going to change where we start our T position. Same things apply from the 3 turns that we did by themselves. This time, we're just going to do 2 in a row. So we're going to do forward inside to backward outside. Here we go. Foot behind, rotate and check, 3rd. And then the 2 thirds, rotate and check. Notice she put her foot in front there. Then she's going to push, rotate and check. Rotate and check with the foot in front. And she controls it all the way back to her center. Great. So those are the 2 double 3 exercises. As I said, this would be good for transitions. This would be good for rotation and just overall body control, core stability, and all the things that we've been talking about today with posture. Control seems to be the word of the day. Super control. Okay, great. Let's go on to the dynamic exercise so we can get an idea of what that looks like. Okay, Chris, you can make the circles as big as you want for this one, okay? Okay, we're going to start with inside double 3. That's okay. Now, sometimes you might have the foot in a different spot, but we're going to do exactly what we did on the big circles. So we're going to put the foot behind, and then we're going to put it in front for the back outside 3 turn. Okay, that's great. Okay, now let's do the forward outside double 3 turn coming back. Great. Okay, so she's going to do the double 3 turn. Foot comes in front. This might be a little bit different than what you've seen before. Great. Notice the control as she comes around the circle, the foot goes in front. We're always coming back to our center, which in this case is the blue line. And you want to have that sort of visual mark when skaters are learning how to do these exercises. Okay, so that's why it's great that we can use some of these visual aids as we go on. That's okay. It's okay to be a little bit wobbly. We're just trying to show you the exercises, and we're not being as precise as we would be, for example, if we were doing figures, because the judges would be quite mad at us today. But we want to just, the thing we want to emphasize is the control and stability and the body alignment that figures can offer and inform us for our dynamic exercises, okay? So we're gonna just gonna show you one more, which is the Serpentine, okay? So we can do both these. So now if you look at the bottom of the circles here, okay, so you can see on the slideshow there, we have the 2 patterns. Okay, so we have right, forward, outside, and okay. Yeah. So let's go on to I think you can see the patterns, right? So we get it, it's 3 circles, and it's Serpentine, meaning the S-shaped pattern as we go around. So this is for things like change of edge. Think, you know, if we're skating, we want more power, we can do that change of edge as we go. There's lots of times that you have to change the edge in the step sequence or transition. So Chrisha is going to show us how we do the change of edge at the center. Okay. So she starts on the first circle. She's going to go halfway around, foot in front, and then foot behind as she changes the edge. Okay. Foot comes in front, just like we did on the normal figure 8. And then she's going to switch the arms at the 3/4. All right. So those same marks around the circle that we're using. So foot goes in front on the inside edge and then behind as she changes over to the outside. Then she's going to put her foot up front at the half mark and then change the arms as she comes back into the center of the 3/4. Okay. And that's the serpentine pattern. That's okay. You can play around with the arms too. Some coaches had them in some positions, and some coaches, when I was growing up, they had them in different positions. Okay. And Chrisha and I have been discussing that there's different ways of doing things. So be flexible, obviously, especially if you're moving this to the dynamic exercise. There's going to be a little bit of variation in what we do. So why don't we start with the inside this time? Yeah. Or actually, let's just do the other foot then. The other foot, because we'll get it when we're coming back. So, okay. Ready? That's okay. Go forward, inside, foot in front at the half, changes circles. Then at the top of the circle, she's going to put the foot in front and then change the arms. Great. Coming back to the center. Control around this middle circle, foot in front, change the edge at the center. Foot is going to come in front at the top of the circle, and then we switch the arms at the 3/4. Okay. So that is adding on to the figure 8 that we did before. As I said, it's important that we know how to control changing from an inside outside edge so that we can better our skating skills as we move forward. Okay. Let's go over to the dynamic exercise. You can imagine how this one's going to work. All right. So let's start with forward outside, forward inside, and then forward inside, forward outside. Notice she's still sticking to the same movements of the foot and the arms, just on a smaller pattern. So you have to do things a little bit more quickly and sometimes at the same time. Okay. Yeah, it's especially important when we're thinking about figures. The foot always comes in front when you come back to the center. Okay. Good. So let's do it coming back then. All right. So Chris's going to show us one more of those, and then we have coming up the Q&A. So if everybody just wants to be on deck for that, okay. Just going to show us one more pattern of this: forward outside, forward inside, foot in front. Forward inside to forward outside. Notice how she rises and falls on the knee there. That's a really important part of figures as well. Great, thank you very much, Chrisha. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the Q&A. That's just the first basic portion. So we hope you got some good informative stuff out of that. I'm just going to come over here for a second. Okay. Yeah, does anybody have any questions? I think, did we have Abraham from the Philippines?
Yeah, hi Matt, I have a question.
Hi, yes.
Yeah. At what age should the skater start doing figure exercises?
Well, when I was a little kid, we started, right from the beginning. So the earlier you can start, the better. I know that sometimes ice is at a premium, especially when we're talking about little kids on big ice with lots of the other kids. So you can use some of these dynamic exercises, definitely to get them started. The major thing that we want to teach about skating skills at a young age, or when you're learning to skate, is control, okay? So a lot of the times if we go too fast through learning how to do these basic body alignment or body control things that we've been learning today, then the skater doesn't learn that control for later on, for when we're doing things like jumps or step sequences or just basic choreography and skating skills in a program. So the earlier you can start, the better, I would say.
Started at 6.
Yes, I started at
Yeah.
6 too. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Abraham. Okay, so next, I think we have Shaz from Malaysia.
Hi, Shaz.
Hi. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Shaz. Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I have a question. So basically, what should the skater master first in order to move from a basic exercises to the more advanced exercises?
Okay, so you saw today that Chrisha was doing the exercises and she had a lot of control, a lot of balance. Even if she knows she made a little wobble, she was able to get it back. So I'd say master these basic exercises that we did first. So the forward, outside, and forward, inside edges. You can also do the back inside and the back outside edges as well. And then things like the serpentine where you're learning to change the edge. It's all about controlling the edges and keeping the body control and the body alignment and working on that core strength and stability as the skater goes through their development of their skating. So definitely start with the basics first and master those, and then start to add in things like the 3 turns and things like that. Okay, so it's definitely a progression in figure skating. You want to keep starting simple and then adding on to those exercises. And the figure patterns allow you to do that because it's all on the same basic pattern that we start with. Okay.
Got you. Thank you.
Thanks, Shaz. Okay. Do we have Michelle Lee?
Hi, I'm Michelle from Singapore.
Hi, Michelle.
How often
Hi, Michelle.
do you teach the figures at your center?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
How often do you teach the figures at your center?
Well, whenever we have the space and the time, we like to do these basic exercises. Now, what we're doing today with the 3 circles, so if you can show the 3 circles, as you can see, that takes up a lot of space. Okay, so if you have the luxury of doing this, fantastic. Please do the figures on the big circles. It just teaches lots of control in that slow manner. But as you can see, we did the dynamic exercises on the line today. Okay, so we want to be able to adapt these exercises to where we are. And as you know, sometimes in Southeast Asia, we don't have the space or the time. So the dynamic exercises are really what we're probably going to be looking at. But still use those principles, those basic principles that we talked about from the figures. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. And Alberto from Indonesia.
Hi.
Hey, Alberto.
Hello, I'm Alberto from Indonesia. In your opinions, what are the benefits of teaching figures?
I think the things that we've been talking about today, the benefits would be, as you can see, when Chrisha is skating, she grew up, she started with figures, and I was lucky enough to get to start a little bit too, and we did some competitions. It really teaches that basic body control, the stability, the alignment. We were talking about the run of the edge. You notice how smooth Chrisha is when she skates. That first came from the basic skating that we learned from figures. Now, if you haven't had the opportunity to do figures before, you've probably seen some of these dynamic exercises. They look really familiar. So if you can just take some of the body control things that we did on the big circles today and add them into your skating skills exercises, that'd be really beneficial for your skaters as they develop.
I think it's also good to point out that
Okay.
the style cow.
Right.
Make them do the takeoff, make them do the
Right. And it's
takedown.
really helpful for, as we were saying, for setups for jumps, for the takeoffs for jumps, for step sequences, for skating skills. It really does inform everything that we do in figure skating comes from these basic circles that we first learn. Okay. So if you can adapt those into circles that you can use going down the ice, that would be excellent.
Make them do those
Thank
takeoff
you.
sit-ups and holding it.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alberta. Great. Okay, so I think that is the end of our question and answer portion. So now we are going to go on to the advanced and difficult turns. So obviously we're going to see the turns that we're going to do today. Chrisha she's bravely going to be showing us these exercises today. They take a lot of control, a lot of balance, and we're rooting for you so you can get through it. Don't worry. It's been a while since we've done these figure exercises. So, but Chrisha does an excellent job anyway. So these will be used for things like your step sequences, difficult turns in your step sequences, transitions, difficult entries into jumps and spins and the exits as well. So why don't we start with the figure 8, the bracket, okay? Everybody's favorite, the bracket. You just put it. Okay. All right, so here we go. We're starting to this third section on the advanced and difficult turns. So we're going to start with the forward. You want to do forward outside bracket, forward inside, inside or outside? Outside first. Okay, so we're going to do forward outside bracket to backward inside bracket. That's okay. So this one has a little bit of counter rotation into the circle. Yeah, instead of going around the circle. So watch her shoulders and her arms. See, they rotate back into the circle. And then she's going to check with the foot and the hips against the shoulders and the arms at the top of the circle. And the foot comes behind as she's coming back to the center. She's going to push the back inside. Look at that control as she held it all the way into the center, foot is behind. Rotate the arms and shoulders into the circle and then check them against the hips. And the free foot comes in front at 3/4. Great. Thank you, Krisha. All right. So this is actually a really good turn to do on these circles and the control, because sometimes this turn is not so clear in step sequences. And a lot of the times it's one of the turns that that skaters might miss in their step sequence, okay? So this really teaches the control on the edges and make sure that they're following an exact circle, okay? Sometimes we get that swoop in the edge as they come out of the bracket. Okay, let's go inside. Okay, so same figure 8 pattern. The turn happens at the top of the circle. Okay, so she's going to push onto an inside edge. She's going to relax because she's got to be over her skating side here. She pushes. The foot comes in front. She rotates and checks against the hips. Okay, and control back to the center with the free foot behind. She pushes to a back outside edge. Foot goes behind. Notice she's rotating into the circle with her arms and shoulders, and then she checks against her hips, and her free foot goes behind and then back in front at the 3/4. Okay, so those are the two bracket exercises. Very similar to what we did with the 3 turn when we started, just this is an advanced and difficult turn. So you might have to spend a little bit more time on the control and the balance of this turn. All right, let's go to the dynamic exercise on the line. So you can imagine what this is going to look like. Yes, you can start with insides. I think that's a common one that we see in the step sequences, that inside bracket, okay? So she's gonna do the turn on the 1/4 mark and then back to the center. Push, turn on the 1/4 mark. Notice she rotates. There we go, the check against the hips there with her shoulders. The rotation of the shoulders and arms into the circle. And check. That's okay. Very good. Okay, so that was the forward inside to the backward outside bracket. Now coming back, she's going to show us the forward outside bracket. Yeah, it's quite a workout on the body. So it's not as easy as it looks. I'm sure if you have kids doing this, they'll tell you it's quite a bit of a workout. So forward outside. Yep. And then backward inside. She looks into the circle. Good. Forward outside, rotate the shoulders and the shoulders against the hips. Back inside. Good. She's got the turn on the 1/4 mark there. Great. Okay, so that's the dynamic bracket exercise. Great. Thank you, Krisha. Okay, so we're going to keep going here with the advanced and difficult turns. The next one that you probably use a lot in step sequences and transitions would be the rockers. Okay, a lot of times this is used as the first turn, for example, in a turn combination or clusters. Okay, so forward outside rocker, forward inside rocker are really important ones.
Like foot action also, just to note.
Yeah.
Foot action's a little bit different on figures than they are when we do step
Yeah,
sequences.
so Krisha's going to show us the rockers today the way that we did them in figures. So the foot action is a scissor action that we did with the rocker. So it's a little bit different. It's to get up and over the turn, and then you sit into your hip on the other side. So it's a little bit different, but it creates that nice pointy shape that we have on the rocker turn. Okay. All right, great. Let's go. Let's start the rocker turn. All right, so we're back to our serpentine circle. So this is the 3 circles when you hear us say serpentine. Okay. Yeah, super serpentine. Okay, so I might have to help Chrisha around her top circle, but that's okay. I'll be there to help. All right, so we're gonna start with forward outside rocker. Okay, so she's following the circle that we've been using, the serpentine circle. Foot goes in front as she comes to the center at the top of the circle, and she does the scissor action of her foot. Notice it comes in front after the turn. Foot goes behind at the top of the circle, and she just stays there. Good, look at that control all the way back to the center. Excellent. Pushes outside over her free side. She's gonna keep the foot behind. Yeah, as she does that back outside rocker turn. Okay, foot in front at the top of the circle. I think she can make it. Yeah, look at the run of the edge. I'm just gonna help her at the end. There we go, right back to the center. Great, okay. So that takes a lot of work getting around that 1.5 circles with the rocker, but it really instills in skaters that sense of control in their body if they have to hold it around the whole circle. Now, we're not looking at the edges so much today, but really try to impart in your skaters the importance of strong edges as they go around the circles, and also clean turns as we do them, because we don't just want these advanced and difficult turns in the step sequence, they have to be clean in order for them to count, okay? So today we're being, we might not be looking so closely, but make sure that you try to impart on your skaters the importance of that, okay? Of course, Chrisha's turns are totally clean all the time, we know that. Okay, so let's do the forward inside rocker. The backward inside rocker. Okay. So it's important, yeah, you wanna relax those shoulders, make sure you have good posture, so we can get that balance over the skating side, okay? Okay, so foot stays behind here, and it's gonna scissor and foot in front, and then she's gonna look inside the circle as she comes around. And this is a long wait as she comes. She changes the arms at the 3/4 and hold and control all the way back to her center. She's gonna push to a backward inside C push with the foot behind. Scissor action, and the foot goes behind again after that rocker turn. Foot goes in front at the top of the circle. She might need a little, okay, a little push as she comes back to the center, but that's okay. As long as she's using those principles that we talked about with the control, body alignment, run of the edge, yes, core stability that we were talking about earlier, okay? It's really important. Take a deep breath, and we're gonna go try these dynamic exercises. Okay, so a little bit different than the turns exercises that we did dynamically before. We were using the quarter mark on these circles. This time, all of the turns are gonna happen on the center mark. Right, so she's gonna use her long axis all the way down. She's gonna start with her inside rockers, okay? Right, so every time she's gonna come back to the center, which is, as I said, yeah, that's okay. Inside rocker, she's gonna hold, look inside the circle, push to the back inside. She's gonna look into this, outside the circle. And notice she's using the same body movements that she was using on the figure circles, okay? That's what we're trying to work on today, to show you the control of the body and the body alignment as she does these turns. Great, fantastic. Okay, let's see the outside rockers then, the forward and backward outside rockers. Great, so there she goes. She pushed outside foot in front. So we're coming right to the long axis each time here on this dynamic exercise. So there's the back outside. We don't see that rocker too often, especially with younger kids. We tend to stick to, sometimes just the forward outside and forward inside rockers for the step sequence, but it's really important that we're teaching kids and people are learning how to skate all of these difficult turns so that they're a well-rounded skater, okay? Great. So as I said, we can use these turns in step sequences and for transitions and entries and exits, difficult entries and exits for jumps and spins, okay? So just make sure you keep these in mind. All right, the next difficult turn is counters, okay? So again, you'll use these in your step sequence. A lot of people have them in their turn combinations or clusters, and we'll also see them in transitions a lot too. Really, really fun turns. Okay. So let's just take a look at the pattern. As you can see, it's the serpentine circle, just like what we were using for the rocker. So the turn is going to happen in the exact same place. This is a very similar body action to the bracket that we did earlier, but we're going to change circle, and there's going to be a little bit of foot action happening too here, I believe. Okay. All right, so we're going to start with the forward outside counter. Again on the serpentine circle, so you're going to change circles. All right. So push forward outside, rotate back into the circle, and then counter rotate onto the other circle with the foot in front. Okay, notice the action of the hips against the arms and the shoulders, very similar to the bracket as she went into that turn. She's gonna look over her free side as she comes back into the center, so that's a little bit difficult. Yeah, so into the circle, counter rotate. That's where the counter gets its name. And then she's gonna go around the circle, much like we've been doing on all the other exercises. So it's very, very formulaic. If you notice that we do a lot of the same things in these exercises, okay? And we're just building and building and building with all of these terms as we go, okay? All right, so very good. For the back outside counter, that is also very helpful for the takeoff of a lutz. A lot of times skaters, especially young skaters, have a hard time with the outside edge on the lutz. I think it's really important that we teach the quality of that edge and making sure that it does stay outside for that nice lutz edge. So this is a really good turn for teaching that pull of the backward outside edge with the counter rotation. Okay, really important turn, the back outside counter.
Just the arms would be a little bit different.
Yeah, arms a little bit different, but the lower body action is definitely what you want as you're going into the lutz edge. Okay, so really important turn just to remember. All right, let's do the forward inside counter. All right, Chrisha's working really hard for us, so we really appreciate all her efforts on this. As I said, it's not as easy as it looks, but she's doing a great job and demonstrating all of these figures for us today. Okay, so forward inside rocker and backward inside rocker. All right, so she pushes, the foot stays behind, she does the rocker and the foot scissors and comes in front. Now she looks inside the circle as she finishes. Look behind, arms change at the 3/4. Okay, so she's ready to do her push as she comes into the center, always ready in that next position as she comes in. Look into the circle. Very good. So you see that counter rotation. Put it front there. And then she's coming really nice and controlled in that position all the way back to the center. And that's why she's able to get around the circle, is that run of the edge in that really controlled and strong body position, okay? All right, take a little breather there and we'll get set up now for the dynamic exercises, okay? All right. So as I said, these turns are important for transitions. They're important for when you're doing your step sequences. So it's really important that we connect these exercises not only to learning how to skate, but how we develop even further as we go along in our skating career, okay? So start inside. Great. Start inside, great. So inside counters, forward first. Counter rotates into the circle. Notice the foot action. Into the circle. Good, and back to the center. She's ready to push on to the next turn. Foot in front, and then back behind. So she's ready to push onto her last backward inside counter. Great. We ran out of space there, that's okay. All right, so forward outside counter. Yes. Forward outside to backward outside counter. Put in front, for behind, sorry. And then she puts it in front afterwards and then moves it behind and looks over her free side as she comes into the center. A lot of movements on this exercise, so you might have to make the lobe a little bit bigger to fit it all in. But Chrisha is doing an excellent job, and smaller skaters might not get around to doing the bigger pattern. So try to keep it controlled on these small patterns. Great. Thank you, Chrisha, with a little flair there at the end. I love that. Okay. So then the last exercise that we have to do are loops. Okay, so the circle is a little bit smaller for this exercise. So you're going to be looking at a body length to a body length and a half for this one. Okay, so we've set up the smaller circles here. For loops, obviously we use them in step sequences. It's a really good edge control exercise as well. Also, when we're doing the back inside loops, it's really important for that back inside edge, for example, on a sow cow, okay? So we're just gonna look at the pattern here. You can see it's actually not a turn. We don't turn on a loop. We stay going the direction that we started in. So if it's a forward loop, we stay going forward around the whole exercise. And then the loop happens at the top of the circle. So it's a small circle inside a bigger circle. That's the easiest way I can describe it.
Yeah, and for me, this is important. Just a lot of kids don't understand the free foot action.
Right. So Chrisha is actually going to start us off with a 2-foot exercise. So this is a good exercise for when they're learning how to do the loops. So it's a 2-foot exercise, a hockey glide. So you can see the action of the loop with the free foot staying on the ice for this exercise and coming up at the end. So let's just show the forward outside loops, okay? Forward outside loop, see she keeps on that hockey swoop, and then the free foot comes up at the end after the loop. So this is really helpful for when they're learning because this can be quite a difficult exercise to learn. So notice the foot stays on the ice until she finishes the top of the loop exercise. Okay, so now I'm going to challenge Chrisha to show us a loop exercise, but this time on one foot. Okay, she's going to do great. So notice the control. It's not a fast exercise. We don't whip ourselves around on the figure exercise, unlike sometimes in the step sequence. We're just going to do control. Now, when we did figures, we had to trace these loop patterns as best we could. Okay, and Chrisha's doing a great job. She's going to do one more. She's going to show you how you trace that. Okay, so you trace around that loop, right? We're trying to do the tracing right on top, and we're learning that muscle memory that teaches us how to control going around those loops. Excellent, great. So that's the forward outside loop. All right, and there's many different variations you can do with this loop. You can also do a serpentine exercise where you do the change loop. You can also do a paragraph, but we didn't get into that one too. But there's many different exercises you can do with the loops, okay? You can also do forward and then do a 3-turn and then do backwards. But now she's gonna show us a backward inside loop, just really quickly, yeah?
Really bad.
That's okay. So this is good, as I said, for control, for example, on back inside edge for a sow cow. So that's okay, just go for it. We're all here for you. That's okay. So back inside loop, she goes to a nice back inside of the toe turns in as she goes to that inside edge. Notice? Okay, great. She's gonna go back to her center, then back inside loop. Great, and she comes around the top of it, okay? Great, so anyways, you can see how that exercise would normally look, and usually Chrisha does a fantastic job, so don't worry. I've seen her do it many, many times. Okay, let's go back to the dynamic line over here, and we can show you these exercises on the line. So forward outside loop on the quarter, forward outside loop on the quarter. Okay, she's just gonna show us a couple so we can see this exercise. And just do all forward. You can do these loops backwards as well. We chose the forward outside loop and the backward inside loop because of the most common that you would see in a step sequence for the younger kids, okay? But you can obviously do the forward inside, but we're not gonna do that today. That's okay. So let's see the forward outside loop exercise, and she's going to come right back to the center, which is our line, and then do the other loop and come right back to the center. Notice the knee action. She stays down in her knee all the way through the loop and then comes up out of the knee a little bit as she comes out of the loop. Excellent. Okay, and then why don't you show us some backward inside loops? That's okay. As I said, we're not going to be super precise with the figure patterns today, but we want to show the body control and body alignment. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes you can start from the 3-turn for the back inside loop. So do forward outside 3-turn in it. Very good. She's coming back to the line. Good. It's really good on our. We got some soft ice here today. It's pretty balmy here in Southeast Asia right now, as everyone knows. So that was excellent. So you can see those exercises, the dynamic ones going down the line. All right, so that is the end of the section 3 on difficult and advanced turns. So we hope that you could take some of those exercises. If you can do it on the big patterns with the figures, that would be fantastic. But if not, you can always move it to the dynamic exercises, okay? Thank you very much to Chrisha for demonstrating for today. That was awesome. Now we're gonna just have a short little discussion. Yeah, at the end here, if anybody has any. Actually, I think I just want to start a little discussion with some of the skaters and the coaches. Right. So I know we have some skaters joining us today. So we have a skater / coaches too. We have Afrina from Malaysia and Alberto again from Indonesia. Chrisha says hi to Afrina.
Hi.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? So I just wanted to ask you, as skaters, as we were going through those difficult and advanced turns, which turns do you find the most difficult when you're doing step sequences or transitions? And did you see anything that might help you as you're doing those turns, or that you might be able to pass on to any skaters? Alberto?
I think as a skater, in my opinion, the hardest turn to execute was the loop. I think like when it comes to the speed, especially when you have a fast speed going on after the first two turns, like in the cluster, that's what happens.
Right.
Like sometimes I stop with the road circle of the loop. I think that's the problem. But I think the exercise that Chrisha gave, the dynamic exercise, it will give us a lot of like better execution for the loop in the cluster.
Right. It's about kind of slowing it down and taking your time with that exercise and really showing the control. Especially, notice she came out with her free foot in front and she held it to the line. That would be really important for the forward outside loop, even if you're doing a turn combination or cluster. Okay, so make sure that you're practicing as skaters, holding that edge as you come out of your loops. Okay. How about Afrina? Did you have a difficult turn? Thanks, Alberto.
Yeah. I think for me, it's more difficult when forward inside loops specifically. Like
Yeah.
you don't even have to go fast, and sometimes I just end up landing on 2 feet.
Oh yeah. Did you want to show us a forward inside? She was saying forward inside loop. She's going to show us a forward inside loop, so you just get an idea of. You can do the dynamic one if you want, Chrisha. Just off of it, anywhere, it's fine. Yeah. Okay, so she's going to show us a forward inside loop, so you can see the control. Notice her free foot. Okay, this is where a lot of skaters have a hard time. Okay, the free foot, it comes behind the skating foot, and then it goes right by the inside of that skating foot on the exit of the loop. Okay, so notice where her free foot started and where it came through. Okay, so all right. No, I think that's okay. She was just saying that one turn is the one that gives her the hardest time. Yeah, so I agree. When you usually don't see a lot of forward inside loops in step sequence, but definitely at the higher level, like if you're watching, Grand Prix or World or Olympics, you'll see them for sure. Okay. Okay, how about coaches? I just want to ask Kai Xiang. Did you have hello, how you doing?
I'm good, I'm good.
Says hi.
Hi.
What turns do you find the most difficult to teach when you're teaching your kids there?
Figure loop as well. Like Alberto say, because it's pretty hard to do in a cluster, especially inside, forward inside, and backward as well. Yeah.
And backward. Okay, yeah. So it's really important. What we did today, as you saw in the figure, is that we slow it down and we really teach the control on those turns. You can also do that with your clusters. You can isolate them out of the step sequence, okay, and make them do the pattern going down the ice. So can you do?
I think back outside, I'll show you an exercise I do with my kids. I do cross rolls in the back outside because it gets the free foot in the right position.
Okay, so let's just see a dynamic exercise for the backward outside loop. So she's doing backward cross rolls with a Schaefer push, which is the push that you do into a back outside loop. Okay, so Schaefer push and Schaefer push back outside loop. So that the action of the backward cross rolls gives you that backward outside edge. Okay, right. So she's got, notice the body alignment that she's doing there for the back outside loop. The hip has to be open and down, dropped into that back outside loop.
You don't want to turn them.
Okay, so that's one thing that we would definitely take from figures that you could put into a dynamic exercise to help your skaters get that control. Okay. Okay, and Franklin from the Philippines.
Oh, hello.
Did you have a turn that you find difficult? Hey, Franklin, how you doing?
Oh, hi, Matt. Hi, I'm Chrisha. Okay, so I would say it would be the loop on the opposite and the weaker side. Okay. Especially the forward inside loop and the backward outside loop on the opposite foot.
Okay, so those would be some. He said the forward inside loop on the weak side, and the backward outside loop on the weak side. So it's really important. Notice Chrisha did that exercise and she did both sides. She did both sides each time. Try not to let your skaters just practice the one side. I know it's tempting to just kind of like master that one cluster or the two clusters that you have in your step sequence, but it's really important that you are doing the balance on both sides if you're going to do those exercises.
And also I find that it's very important with the loops to use your free foot to draw the shape of the loop. A lot of kids, they don't.
Yeah.
You want to really draw that foot through. If you're doing inside, if you're doing inside, you're drawing the loop and creating a circle.
Okay, so a lot of the things that we did today involve the placement of the free foot and where it goes. So in this exercise, for example, the loops, it'd be really important where you place that free foot. Okay,
yep.
Great.
Well,
thank you, Franklin. Thanks so much.
Really helped a lot. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I think we're coming to the end here of the seminar. So I just wanted to say thank you, first of all, to Chrisha Gossard for being our gracious demonstrator for today. It's not as easy as it looks, everyone. That was quite a workout. It's the control and the balance and the stability that you need for these exercises to get through them. It's really important that we're instilling in skaters today the same principles that figure skating was built on. Okay, so thank you, Chrisha, for that. I'd like to thank all of the participants from Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Indonesia. Great to see you guys. I know in this pandemic time, it's so hard to keep yourself motivated and going, but it's really nice that the ICU was able to bring us together on Zoom today in this webinar. So great to see you all, and we hope to see you back in Thailand sometime soon as things get better. All the participants on the live YouTube channel, thanks for joining us. This is the first time that we've ever done anything like that here. So it's been great that you've been able to join the skating family from all around the world. So thanks for that. To all of the centers of excellence around the world, all the other CoEs, thank you for making this happen and for all your help and support for helping us to do this webinar. To Susanna Rakamo from the ICU Development Commission, she's a member on that commission. Thank you so much for your support and making this happen, and to the commission as a whole for helping us to put on this webinar. And from all of us here, from all of my colleagues here at Iowa International Training Center, the ICU Center of Excellence in Bangkok, thank you very much. Stay strong and keep training, and we hope to see you again back here soon. Sawasdee ka.